So Ghost of Tsushima is an open world adventure through ancient Japan, and in many ways it's a love letter to samurai Kurosawa movies, and the game is full of tense combat, exploration, secrets, as well as bursting with colour and jaw-dropping vistas. Ghost of Tsushima focuses on Jin Sakai and the invasion of the Mongols to feudal Japan in 1274. We're introduced to Jin and his uncle early on in the game on the beaches of Tsushima, trying to fend off the vast Khotun Khan and his Mongol warriors. So Jin nearly dies and his uncle gets captured. As you progress through the game, we keep returning to the central conflict with Jin. Do you approach with honour, or do you do what you have to do to survive and keep the people of Tsushima safe from harm? And in key moments in the game, we're presented with flashbacks from Jin's uncle teaching him the honourable ways, but as you make your way throughout the game, the sheer numbers and the brutal nature of the Mongolian forces, Jin is forced to use underhand tactics. Now, he's not always proud, and Khotun Khan meanwhile is keeping Jin's uncle, goading him that he hears of Jin falling into the path without honour. Yeah, it's a pretty good setup, and I appreciate the narrative, the cutscenes and the environmental storytelling. The structure of the game is really good. If you want to mainline the story, you can do it. There's no gating here either, which is always a bonus. There's nothing more frustrating than going through a story-focused game only to reach a point where you have to stop, go and collect a bunch of things, and then come back hours later after some grinding. Here, there's none of that. You've got 4 main kind of story elements to engage in. You've got the main quests, the side quests, the tales, and there's the mythic quests too. The side quests do a great job of fleshing out the excellent cast of characters, including Yuna, who coins the phrase of Jin being a ghost after one intense battle where you have to take back a forge. The mythic quests are nice too, as you learn ancient sword fighting techniques or moves, and there's some nice armour to find throughout the game. It's got something for everyone. Those who just want to see the main story can beeline the main campaign, but for completionists there's a richness in the game that's there if you want to find it. And the tales, they're multi-part and delve into one character into much more detail. So combat is fairly central to Ghost of Tsushima, whether you're battling down 5 or 6 guys with bows or swords or spears, or you're facing off against one opponent, the combat feels really good and tense at times. When you approach a battle, you've got a couple of options. You can face them with honour like a samurai, or you can sneak in like a ghost. These options laid before you also weave throughout the narrative of the game and repeatedly ask you the moral question of what you want to do. So this doesn't have Sekiro or Dark Souls precision level of combat, but it does feel very good and satisfying. The parry system implemented in the game is fairly forgiving, easing you in rather than punishing you like some Souls games. And as you progress throughout the game, you do collect skill points and you can choose to spend them on sword fighting skills and tricks, which certainly make the game easier as your opponents increase in skill and numbers. Throughout my playthrough, I never got tired of hitting the showdown button. So this is an indicator on the screen when you're approaching some enemies and you go into a standoff mode where each man slowly walks in, eyes locked, and then it's the first person to blink. You have to keep an eye on the triangle button and release at the right time, but after you've done this a few times, timing won't be a problem at all. Now this is a fantastic effort from developer Sucker Punch, who offered a couple of games of this generation to bookend the PS4 and the Xbox One era. So back in 2014 they released infamous Second Son, and they wouldn't be back until the end of the generation with Ghost of Tsushima. So I waited on this game and I didn't play it until I had my PS5. I'm really glad I waited to see it in 60 frames per second and upscaled 4K graphics. It's truly a thing of beauty. So the world in Ghost of Tsushima is a beautiful one, and you realise this very early on when Jin is on his horse crossing the windswept fields, reaching down to grab the white leaves from the plants below. It's a really stunning opening. If you get the opportunity to play the game on the PS5, then I thoroughly recommend it. The colour of the environments pop out at every turn, whether it's the purple flowers as you climb a mountain, or the fields of red and brown leaves falling from the trees. The environments feel alive in the game, and it's constantly communicating with you through the wildlife and especially the wind. So this is one of the nicest touches in the game. To navigate the world, you can focus on a marker and then use the guiding winds to get to your destination. It's a nice touch, and one that makes the game feel like it's literally breathing in and out and gently directing you to where you need to go. There's also plenty to explore in the world of Tsushima. The island is made up of 3 parts, so you start out at the bottom and you work your way up throughout the chapters in the game. The island is really big and there's plenty to do and loads to see. So as well as the Mongols to fight, there's wildlife to contend with. This ranges from bears, Mongol attack dogs and also wild pigs too. There's a friendlier wildlife out there in terms of birds and deer and friendly little foxes that lead you to shrines. So as with other open world games, there's plenty to collect, level up and secrets to find. So progressing through the game allows your legend to grow throughout Tsushima, which in turn leads to new skills and stances. So you've got the water stance, the wind stance and the stone stance, just to name a few, and all of them are really effective against certain enemies. You can easily switch between the stances in battle, adapting to the environment and your enemies who's attacking you in a split second. So together with the stances you can learn legendary moves, which in effect are like special moves allowing you to strike a death blow or attack multiple people in a short space of time. And the quests for these are really fun. I'd recommend doing 1 or 2 of them because they're really going to help you out in battle and make it much easier as you get towards the endgame. There are merchants in the towns and the forts that you visit, and you can upgrade your sword, your outfit and also your ranged weapons too. So as well as your deadly katana, you also have an array of ranged weapons including throwing knives and later on different grenade types. These however are labelled as ghost weapons and your uncle would likely tell you off for fighting without honour, but when you've got 7 guys coming at you, you have to do what it takes to kill them, otherwise it's going to be game over. The game is already beautiful in its initial state, but there's also the option to switch to a Kurosawa mode where the colour is drained to simply black and white and the audio is slightly modified. It's definitely authentic, but personally I wouldn't recommend it for too long as you're going to be missing out on some of the best colour and graphics of the last generation. It is a really nice touch in the game and perhaps this would be good for a second playthrough or a short amount of time. However, with the graphics being this good, I'd recommend enjoying them in their original form. Since the game's launch, Sucker Punch have added a couple of modes. So you've got Legends mode and there's also a Raid 2. Legends is a multiplayer expansion that features more supernatural elements from Japanese legends, and players assume one of 4 available classes and either take on the 2-player story missions or 4-player wave-based missions, although all missions can be played solo. There's also a 4-player raid, and that takes place over 3 chapters. It's pretty incredible to get this level of support post-launch for what was seemingly a single-player adventure game. Now, Sucker Punch has done a great job and rightly won many awards in 2020. I think if it wasn't for Last of Us 2, then I'm sure it would have taken many more Game of the Year awards. It's an amazing first effort at this type of game from Sucker Punch, and the fact that they added multiplayer and a raid puts other companies to shame with this level of support. It's not all perfect in Ghost of Tsushima. The lighting at times can be a little bit dark, the environments can feel a little bit samey, and once you learn the patterns of the opponents, things can get a little bit predictable in battle. Side quests can be a little bit bland, although personally I think this is saved by the strength of the main quest. The side quests can feel a bit like they were tacked on after and aren't as rich as the main quest, but it's a mild complaint to an otherwise fantastic effort. Now, from the very first moments with the game, it blew me away with the stunning visuals and the engaging gameplay, and the story kept me playing, and I was getting up a few hours early to sneak in more time with the game. Now, it looks great on both PS4 and PS5, and if you're a fan of single-player action-adventure games, then I definitely recommend you pick up Ghost of Tsushima, give it a try, and I don't think you're going to be disappointed. So the developer was Sucker Punch, and it was published by Sony Interactive. It's available for the PS4 and the PS5, and it was originally released on the 17th of July 2020. Well, that is it for my review of the Ghost of Tsushima, and as always, thank you so much for watching. Hit that subscribe button down below and subscribe to This Week in Video Games. If you want to join the community, check out the Discord link in the description, or you can follow me on Twitter at TWIVG Podcast. If you enjoyed this video or found it useful, liking and sharing the video would really help me out. Otherwise, check out the other videos on the channel. Thanks again. See you soon.